Lately, as the Supreme Court continues to be engulfed in a never-ending series of ethical crises and a more problematic collapse in public confidence, we have learned that Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito don't care. Even worse, they refuse to do anything about it. While they reject appeals from Congress to come in and address the American people's concerns at public hearings, where we can all hear their explanations for all that we've learned, Thomas and Alito are fine with talking with rich Republican donors at, like, shushy resorts. And Alito and Roberts apparently are A-OK chatting with a perfect stranger at a Supreme Court Historical Society party.
As a Catholic and as someone who, like, really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that, like, needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of, like, winning.
I think you're probably right. I think one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. Really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that the solution really is, like, winning the moral argument. Like, people in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
That was Justice Alito sharing his religious fervor with the stranger who turned out to be progressive activist and documentarian Lauren Windsor, who is known for approaching high-level conservative figures, pretending to be an ally, and recording them making candid comments. Whoops. Joining me now is Ian Millhiser, senior correspondent for Vox. I'm a big fan of your work. Thank you for being here. I think there is a certain sense of learned helplessness that we have developed on the media side and maybe on the political side when it comes to the Supreme Court, because the answer is always there's nothing we can do. Is there something we can do?
I mean, I guess my answer is sort of.
Yeah.
The problem is that Democrats don't control the House. And so all they can do is theater. And on the one hand, like holding a hearing, getting up, giving big speeches,
yes,
all of that is great to shine a light on it.
Yes.
On the other hand, here we are on a big national news network, and we're talking about this story.
Yeah.
So, like, people are noticing it.
Yes.
It's happening. And so, I don't know what the skeleton key is for Democrats to fix this. I do know they need to win the election, because the only way there could be any kind of reform of the Supreme Court is if there's a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate.
Absolutely. And also the next election, I think, increasingly is not about Joe Biden. It is literally about who gets to pick the 30-year-old version of Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, because they will retire the day after the inauguration. It is clear, because they want to go and have vacations all the time instead of all part of the time. Here's the thing. You've had Dick Durbin, who is the Senate, the leader of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the chair of it, invite Justice Roberts to come down and do hearings. Roberts said, I don't have to do that.
Right.
No. He's asked Samuel Alito, come down. Alito says, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. Yeah. Nobody requires me to do it, and I won't do it. So now they're having a press conference tomorrow where they're going to request unanimous consent on this resolution for this bill called the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act. It won't pass the House.
It will not. Yeah, and it won't pass the Senate either, because, they won't get unanimous consent. And it will be filibustered anyway.
Correct.
Right.
So the only option to me is hearings. And there have been there are people named like Noah Berlasky and others who are like, do hearings anyway in the Senate where you can. Let me play you a mash of hearings and how effective they are. Here's some hearings.
Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
I began by telling the president that there was a cancer growing on the presidency, and if the cancer was not removed, the president himself would be killed by it.
We want to know the truth. The statement you sent out was a statement on Benghazi, and you say vicious behavior as a response to inflammatory material on the internet. If that's not pointing as the motive of being a video, I don't know what is.
You feel like you're doing a great job, right? Is that what you're saying?
We're doing our level best in a very...
What does that mean? What does that mean when a child is sitting in their own feces, can't take a shower? Come on, man. What's that about? None of us would have our children in that position.
Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it.
Obviously, the McCarthy hearings exposed Senator McCarthy and destroyed his power. The Watergate hearings resulted in the president's resignation. You could go on. Benghazi hearings showed that lady can do 12 hours with her head in her hands and look like a boss. You had the hearings about the caged children, Elijah Cummings, one of the greats of all time. And the January 6 hearings resulted in prosecutions. It was hearings that caused the Michael Cohen revelations that led to prosecutions of Donald Trump. Should the Senate hold these hearings? Dick Durbin.
So what I think the Senate needs is, you need to do effective theater. Yeah. And one of the things that I think is a huge problem for Durbin or anyone who's trying to stage that theater is that when you go after the courts can strike down your subpoenas. They can strike down, Remember a while back when they tried to subpoena Leonard Leo, the head of the Federalist Society, because he might be involved in some of this chicanery.
All those guys' boss.
Yeah, nothing ever came of that. And the reason why is because they try to enforce the subpoena. Half the judges and most of the judges of the Supreme Court owe their job to Leonard Leo.
Right.
So they're not going to let people go after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're dealing with, I don't know if corruption is the right word, but we're dealing with a virus that is embedded so deep in our government when you have a partisan judiciary in the way that we do. And again, if there is theater that can help people understand, we need a Congress, we need a White House that's gonna get rid of this virus.
Yeah.
We need to do it. But ultimately, everything comes down to this election.
Everything comes down to this election. And the election is, in many ways, about the courts. Ian Millhiser, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate you.